Very good. So, good afternoon for all of you. And it's going to be really hard, actually, to keep the energy high. We had a very long day of enthusiasm, so this is a bit of a late slot. And I have to admit also we are a bit rusty to be on the stage. I haven't presented in a while, and I have to say also, for Sofia, this is actually the first time you present on stage. So I would like to give a big round of applause to Sofia for encouragement. Did I manage to release some tension for you with this?
No.
Yeah, okay, I thought so. Well, that's what happens when manager interferes. They usually, with good intent, end up making more mess than what they thought. So,
and put an introvert on stage.
Okay. So we are going to guide you through the perspective of a manager and a controller of what it means to bridge what we do with also other parts of the organization that are very, very important to deliver value to customers. And we come from a traditional organization. Actually, in the original title, it was called hierarchical and mechanical, which is our inheritance. But I thought that the word traditional actually is better suitable and even more polite, I have to say. So let's first of all introduce the two roles. If I also mention, there is a link, by the way, here. I'm not sure. Can you see? Because there is a bit of a lighting here. This marmarindorvarzia.com. What you see here is actually what we do as a company. We move through our business with our customers 90% of the goods that actually you have in this room, and we power with electricity a lot of the places that actually you have visited in the world. And it's quite relevant, and we'll get back to that. So, but let's go to the role. Who are we? Sofia.
Thank you, Mauro. Yep, so my name is Sofia, and as you can see, I'm a controller, which often means that I'm the one ensuring that our house is in order. That also goes with receiving comments that everything was nice and fun before people like you came. Because a part of my job is also to reduce the fun to ensure our house is in order.
Lovely. And I'm a manager, what you would call a manager in this community. And most often I am the role that actually takes a big hit if that house is not in order. And when the pressure increases as a manager, sometimes we end up interfering or we end up learning. And through this presentation, we will bring you this contrast, what it means to be a manager and a controller, to allow the great story, actually, that we heard from all of you today. So it will be about, for you to judge, if we are Jedi Masters, and we are helping what you're doing, or vice versa, if we are, do you remember what these are? What are these called? These are called Sith Lord. I have to say that your lack of knowledge of the Force is disturbing. and they understood the joke, you didn't, but okay. So it will be about this contrast. Are we actually the bad guys here or the allies for what we are trying to do? And you will be the judge of that. So, but let's first of all go forward. By the way, I'm very resting on stage. This is a bit too small for me. I need to move. Our digital organization. As I said, our digital organization, so the one that we are responsible for, is one part of an ecosystem. It's comprised of many teams. Actually, how many teams we have, Bas, as of today? Yeah, how many teams we have in our organization? Teams?
11.
Very good. How many people in total?
100.
Okay. And this organization per se is responsible of a very important product. A product that is, as Bas was showing in the video today, is taking care of our lifecycle agreement. It's a very important part of our business. But as an organization, we are not alone. And that's the important part to understand. No matter what we do, it doesn't happen in a bubble. It happens in an ecosystem where we need to actually respect and connect to our colleagues. And this ecosystem, let me see if this clicker works, yeah, is part of a much bigger picture. And this bigger picture connects to other parts of the organization. Actually, you had the pleasure to meet some of our colleagues from other parts of the organization that I see here also sitting, that are doing a very other important part of what we deliver to customer. And here, as a manager also, no matter what we do within our organization, we also need to respect and honor the heritage where we come from. So, as you can see, we have been in business for 191 years. That's almost 2 centuries. And only saying that for me, because I've been actually 20 years in this company, I'll be celebrating it next week, as a matter of fact, it's already a lot of weight. And our customer, both in the maritime and in energy sector, as I said, are contributing to the majority of the goods transported, of the majority of the electricity that is produced, that is moving the world. And it's also a domain that is going through a lot of change because of decarbonization. So there is a lot of climate change impact, so there is a huge social responsibility that comes with the job. So when we think about what it means to be a manager, I'll be very blunt with all of you. We don't give a dime about framework. We don't care about framework. As a matter of fact, as a manager, the only thing we care is about performance of the organization and how they play in the ecosystem. Then there is a personal flavor. As a person, I like to do it with great people and feeling great about what they do, about the product they build. But remember, a manager is responsible for the performance of the organization. And as a matter of fact, when we talk about frameworks, especially complicated frameworks, it can be very counterproductive. Evangelizing something or building a cult about is something that I try to demystify all the time. Because that's not about it. That's not your end game. It's not about adopting something, implementing something. It's about what that something gives you, to the people, to make that recipe that we looked before a success. Then, I will revert back a little bit of when I started in this role. And the problem that I faced, because why am I here talking at the LeSS conference about the case, and I also provoke you all saying, I don't care about framework. Framework, forget it, but there are certain principles that are cornerstone in delivering value and in delivering performance in organizations. And those principles, as a manager, even selfishly, you can say, are principles that are valuable for making that step and bringing the organization to a level different performance. When I joined, I was confronted with an environment where everybody was screaming at me about the fact that certain things were not progressing fast enough. There was a lot of pressure from my peers about needs for prioritization. Prioritize this, prioritize that. And we had 3 separate backlogs, and we need those backlogs. Actually, they have multiple teams with their own backlog. And I was confronted with this situation, and I didn't understand why I had to prioritize, and actually as an organization, we were not able to prioritize. So for me, the principle of customer centricity and doing it according to customer value was an element that was necessary to bring that prioritization at the higher level of discussion among other managers. And first thing first that we did was very simple. You are familiar with this very well. We went into one backlog, and we started to prioritize around customer value, which meant, of course, as a manager, that we had to do some changes, also some tough decisions. Now, if I was the point of contact, this is important for whoever is your manager. Also, it's very important that you take one step back. Because in a hierarchical organization, if something doesn't go right, the organization tends to escalate to the person who is in line manager and responsible for that organization. So, going to a product owner, who, by the way, is John, who is here. Please, can you stand up, John, because I want to put a face behind. He is the product owner with a capital T, P, and O. That prioritization that first was coming to me and gave me a lot of gray hair and little hair, and now you can see that John is following you as well, because it's a success. The step back that the manager needs to take is that when the escalation happens, it comes still to me, why this is not progressing. But my role as a manager is to actually act as that heat shield that we're talking about in the morning and say, you know what, I have no authority to actually interfere with the product owner backlog. The product owner is the product owner with a capital T, P, and O. And this was really difficult to understand in our company because when you are a hierarchical company, the line manager is supposed to troubleshoot. Now we managed to create the role of a product owner. The second thing is the hierarchy. When I joined also, I realized that there were a lot of work that was pushed down in solution mode, like towards an IT service provider. So you need to do this, you need to do that. And when I started to meet the people, I realized that we have a lot of people with master in computer science, some people even with a PhD in statistics, in physics, etc. A lot of bright people who really wanted to work around more problem solving. And as a manager, I thought this is not working because we are not actually able to uplift the people and put them in the condition actually to perform and give the best to what actually the product needs. So we removed the hierarchy. And we embrace the concept of self-managing team exactly to enable people to give their best version for what the product needed. So what does this mean? Because this doesn't come free of charge. Again, as a manager, you need to take a couple of steps back and do the heat shield to create an environment where people can actually experiment and learn. And I literally remembered for the first couple of years, we had to repeat several times, and some of you hopefully remember, that learning is a deliverable. I remember going to the meeting where people were feeling conscious about the fact that they had to go and travel and do something else. Then actually it was pure deliverable outcome. And I had to say, guys, learning is a deliverable, it will pay back. But of course, in the back, there was all this pressure, this push and pull umbrella that we discussed in the morning. So as a manager, you need to be able to create that space for the organization. It's a time investment. I'm checking the time, by the way, Sofia. I want to show you also what this results into, because I wanted to give a bit of weight of what we do. So now this is an island of Roatan in Honduras. You can see a bit of data here. Now we don't have a monitor, so I'll go here and look it with you. Here we are running the whole grid of the island. We have a power plant with 4 Wärtsilä engines. Then there is actually a wind turbine on the island, 26 turbines. And there are also 2 solar power plants. And when I say focusing on customer value and uplifting people and playing within a bigger organization to deliver customer value, it means playing at this level, guys. So our solution to customers require that we play also with other companies, other parties. And in Roatan, where, by the way, one of the important things that the manager does is go and see. I spent 10 days working as an operator on this plant. We have the social responsibility of managing the whole grid and provide electricity to the whole island. So when, as a manager, you create that heat shield for the teams and for the product owner to grow into the role, you also need to honor and realize that what we do as a company is not only to create an environment that is safe and great to learn, it's also an environment that needs to interface and bridge that chasm with other parts of the organization that are delivering this size of projects. So we cannot live in a bubble. We cannot be seen as a black box. And as a manager, it's my job, it's my duty to build those bridges. Not because it's only for me, selfishly for my career, but if those bridges are not built, very soon someone else will come and will say that this bubble doesn't make any sense in the environment. The rest of the environment doesn't understand it. And that's really not good for any of us working in this kind of organization. But now I'll give the word to you, Sofia, because I'm Italian. I stay as away as possible from Finnish food, so this is your...
I'm going to continue on what Mauro just showed, but before I do that, I think I have some explanation to do. So why did we put this disgusting dish on the screen? First of all, I was born and raised in Finland. I, for several reasons, doesn't really recognize myself as a true Finn. This is one of the reasons. Because in my opinion, this is a dish that is okay to have every 10th year or so, but in Finland, this is a weekly dish. So I'm very happy to be here today because it's served always on Thursdays everywhere. But the intent was not to come here today to talk about this pea soup, but more let it symbolize our commercial offering. So Mauro, if you could click.
Actually, why don't you take the clicker and govern your own presentation?
Because you weren't giving it to me. So our commercial offering consists of 3 ingredients. We have the engines and spare parts, we have lifetime maintenance, and we also have digital products that enable better outcomes for our customers. And as said, and as also seen in the video that Mauro was showing you, we deliver the full dish. It's not about delivering separate ingredients. And all of these ingredients actually have different ways of working. So we have the engines and spare parts, which are project-based, so they follow strict milestones and deadlines. We have the lifetime maintenance, which are time-bound agreements. And then we have the digital products, which are interactive Scrum, so working in sprints. So it's all of these ingredients. Or if we compare actually the engines compared to the digital products, it's a lot about different disciplines in how we plan and execute the work, how we respond to change, and also how we deliver value over time. So mechanical engineering is a lot about precision, durability, and compliance. Change happens slower and often driven by regulation and market shifts, while in software development, it's driven by user feedback, responsiveness to change, and agility. Also, priorities shifts quickly and obsolescence is rapid. So it's not only about different tools and outcomes, but it's about the fundamental tempo and adaptability. And this, of course, triggers a lot of questions from our stakeholders. By stakeholders in this context, I'm talking about internals, so the rest of the organization. And Mauro and I are in a lot of different situations where we get the impression that our stakeholders perceive software development as complex. They don't know when the work will be done, and also they miss out on transparency on what's being worked on. And I actually thought it was interesting to listen in to some of the discussions in the open space today, because there was a lot of discussion about when the pressure from above increases, we tend to just deliver what we are asked. But this is something that we have been working heavily on, that everything we create is for our own sake, but it's still serving the purpose of giving transparency to our stakeholders. Also, it's a lot about education in our roles. In mechanical environments and software development, there are a lot of commonalities, but I think they are not too obvious all the time. So, for example, we have the cybersecurity in software development, but also if we translate it to the mechanical environment, it's similar to engine safety or mechanical safety. So ensuring that the engine don't overheat and explode, for example. So our work is to try to translate wherever possible, but also find a way to increase the transparency to our stakeholders. And together with BUS, we have been working a lot on defining metrics that will give the transparency that is needed, but that also will support our way of managing the product. So I understood also BUS will give some more context into this matter tomorrow, so I won't open it up too much, but I wanted still to give you some insight into what we have been working on. So we actually split the software development efforts into 2 dimensions. First dimension is roadmap items versus emerging items. Roadmap items are bigger planned items in the roadmap, and the roadmap is used for budgeting and forecasting purposes. Then we have the emerging items, which are Smaller items, not in the roadmap, often based on user feedback, fixes and small enhancements. And our work in giving this overview is also to educate the stakeholders in why it's not preferred or desirable to have 100% of roadmap items. The second dimension we have is, actually this is a bit of a controversial slide. I'm already seeing Buzz here giving me a look. Because here we differentiate between value generation and maintenance. But according to us, everything we do is value generation. But we wanted still to reflect the view that our stakeholders have on this matter.
She was super concerned about you. Yeah.
I learned. The value generation is product enhancement, so new things that we add to the product, while the maintenance work, I will open up that a bit more in a couple of seconds. But usually when we show this to our stakeholders, maintenance is something that is considered that they see it as something we need to try to decrease as much as possible. But everything we build is also needed to be kept up and running. So it's natural that we're not able to decrease it in full. But this is once again something we are educating our stakeholders with. So actually, the maintenance work is split into reactive maintenance, which is similar to or same as bugs. So if we do nothing, the product is not working. Then we have the proactive maintenance, which is improvements in our internal processes. The preventive maintenance is upgrades. So if we don't do anything, the product will in the future stop working, or stop working properly at least. And then we have the operational monitoring. And as said, Buzz will go through it more in detail tomorrow, but the idea from our perspective when we look at the metric is to use it to drive our product development and get a better understanding of how we are actually doing, how the product is doing. So for example, if we would see a high amount in reactive maintenance, we would most likely want to spend more effort on proactive maintenance to try to decrease that one. Is there anything I've forgotten?
Oh, don't worry. If we forgot something, we'll talk about it over dinner.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Sofia. Then, funny enough, to continue, we are a company that de facto transform energy into power, both on ships and on land. And a big element of the machinery that we send out and the software is actually maintenance, because the product needs to be maintained from our customer perspective. So we make business out of it as well. It's about life cycle maintenance. And it's funny enough that actually what Sofia opened up is also used by us as manager, again, trying to give you our perspective, to bridge that gap with other parts of the organization that want to understand more how software works. That's so that we are not a black box. And it's very interesting for us that there is a lot of questioning about why software is so complex and why actually there is so much maintenance work, when actually our primary business is about maintenance. It shouldn't come as a surprise for our mechanical colleague that actually maintenance is an important part of the business. And still, there is actually a lot of effort that we need to put down, not only to understand and do a better product development, also to bridge out and explain why maintenance is a part of the game, and it's a very important thing to take care of. So we had this comparison. But then on the metric per se, because I know we might come across as Sith Lord if we are not paying attention what metric we bring out, because they could be damaging. There is also an element for the people, and here I picked an analogy because I like football. I'm Italian. I think it's quite obvious, although we're not doing that well, by the way, lately. Also for the people who are actually playing the game, when you play a game, and you want to understand what does it mean to win, you might think you're playing the greatest game ever, but if you have no idea how the rules of the game are and what is written on a scoreboard and actually how the scoreboard is calculating number, we notice that soon people get kind of demotivated or a bit lost. They don't understand how you actually win the game. And when you are in a big company, you are not a startup where the product owner is the CEO and actually the product that goes out is immediately having a connection to customer value, but you are playing a role, like Sofia was saying, in a much bigger context where you are an ingredient part of a bigger recipe. It's not that easy sometimes to connect to the ultimate customer value. Hence, having the focus on the people and also trying to explain what it means to perform is something that from a manager's perspective is super important to motivate the people, and especially when we go into an organization that is line management-less from a traditional perspective. As I said, we try to remove the hierarchy, but it doesn't mean that we actually remove them in full. Actually, I'm not sure how many of you have watched a recording or have been last year at the conference. I think it was in Madrid, if I'm not mistaken. Our so-called people manager, because we have a function called like that. As a matter of fact, Marie, Emily, and now Jenny join us. Can you please stand up? Because if you have a question, these are the faces of the people you should connect later. They are far better than me in explaining what we did. Are also putting a lot of effort in order to provide the people not only the enthusiasm and the environment that they have, but also the understanding of what it means to actually win the game. So this is part of what it means to be a manager. I think we're doing pretty okay with time use. Then I'll try to go to wrap up, because frankly speaking, we were hoping to get a lot of questions for you and also continue over dinner. What happens if we leave tomorrow? Because I heard many times from the conversation here that some of the experiment, or even what you call them adoption, although I say that I am very allergic to frame and so forth, are sometimes then going away when actually the manager changes. Is it because of that heat shield? But then why do you make your change, your continuous improvement dependent on one or two individuals who strongly believe in what they're doing? If the two of us leave tomorrow, I can promise you what will happen. A new manager, a new controller will come in. That's for sure. And my objective as a person, as a manager here, because I believe in some of the principles, not necessarily, forget about fame, but the principles are really what I believe are good for actually bringing an organization to perform better. My belief is actually that they should be part of a DNA and a culture with the people of that organization in a more powerful way than the individual who is supposed to heat shield. So my objective as a manager is that if tomorrow I leave and a settler comes in the picture, the organization is so powerful in the DNA, in the belief that that is the right culture, that it will actually reject that manager. They will have the power and the force to survive even with a manager change. I know it's very ambitious. Okay, but remember that the power of the mass turned the regime also in France in the 18th century. Yeah? So it's possible if one wants it. So that's my objective. And in the long run, it means building a culture, building a DNA that can survive one individual, because individual will change. And then wrapping up to conclusion, because we would like to leave room for question. And the question will be back to you. Are we Jedi Masters as manager and controller? Or, did you learn this one now? What is this?
Sith Lord.
Excellent, Sofia. Or Sith Lord. This is something that the people will judge us or evaluate us. It's not up for us to say. And the people are actually what matters the most. And we would not be in the position we are today, and even the privilege of being here and explaining what we have been going through, which has not been, by the way, and it will never be easy. It will be hard and motivating at the same time. And if one doesn't like it, they shouldn't do it. It will be because of the people. And that uplift, I can tell you, that especially on the removing the hierarchical aspect and giving the room for the people to learn and express themselves, not only bring performance, bring an incredible joy. Even the longest day at work, the most hard day at work where the heat shield is almost melted down, seeing what happens in the organization is what is recharging the battery and giving the energy to come back the day after. And say that, I wanted to conclude, but before you close it, I actually would like to call all the people from the team and come on the stage, because the round of applause is for you guys. Come, please. Yeah. Oi. You too. Yes. Yeah. And now I feel more comfortable to answer questions because we have much more firepower here. Yeah.
Is it a good time for...
Yeah. Good.
questions?
Yes, thank you.
One thing still. Before we start the questions, we would also like to thank Dean and his team once again for making this possible with this amazing presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So questions?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that story, Mauro. Maybe a personal question for you, because you're quite ambitious, but you're not the average leader that we encounter typically, hearing from the stories we heard today, right? So I'm curious about your personal story that led you to this strong belief on how to lead the company. So just maybe personal story, but I'm curious what that would be.
Personal story, oh, that's a long one. Maybe this is what you say in the training. It's a philosophical dinner conversation. No, but I respond to you. Actually, I had a very turbulent roller coaster story in my career. I've been now spending 20 years with this company. I'm an IT person, by the way, so I'm not a mechanical engineer. And I've done before cybersecurity and IT before, and video game actually, before joining Wärtsilä. But in Wärtsilä, I found an environment that it's extremely international, very diverse, also because of the industry we operate in. So it gave me a lot of opportunity to learn new things. In my career, I started in IT. I'm actually a network engineer or in education. And, but just to give an idea, I also pivoted in my career. I manage a profit and loss, so a business organization. I've been the managing director in Singapore, where I had to manage factory with foundry, machine shop, assembly and testing, spare parts. So it's, you know, I'm an IT person, and they gave me the opportunity actually to learn how to manage factories also, or to full-fledged business end-to-end. And this gave me the belief that when people are given the opportunity, they can expand their knowledge of what it means to bring customer value. As I said, it requires multiple ingredients to deliver the recipe. And at least in our company, which I have a very great esteem for, I hope you got it from my presentation, I've seen a lot of times leaders circulating in different parts of the organization, totally outside the comfort zone also, in order to create actually the senior leadership of the future, people who have a much broader understanding of what it means to deliver customer value. And this, for me, is simply the DNA where I grew up into, and I try to transfer it into what maybe in this context we call self-managing team with cross-functional capability, with preferences for sure, but with whole product focus and not compartmentalizing things. So that's my personal journey, and I can tell you maybe a short story. What actually brought me really into adopting the principle that we are endorsing in this room, so LeSS principles, is actually one slide from your training. And it's the slide of your son with the sunglasses of resource thinking versus people thinking, where I understood the approach to people. I flipped. The rest of the training was good too, by the way, but this slide was priceless. So, and I'm so obsessed about this that actually Sofia knows, because sometimes she's presenting this rolling forecast and the long-range plan and all this financial in Excel, and wherever I spot controller using the word resources, which is very common when you talk about people, I literally enter in real time in Excel and change it to people. So
you can tell I've had a hard time.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm dead. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I try to share some emotion about the job more than just the mechanics of it.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.